answers. Before we start, officially, everyone's cell phone, can you please set them to a vibrate or silence feature? They all have it. And if you get a phone call, they record it, please answer it outside. Do not answer it on the panel. It's very it's glass and everyone else that's trying to listen. With that being said, do you know Caitlin Glass from her voice work on Funimation? She has been Winry from Fullmetal Alchemist and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. She's played Haruki in Born High School Host Club. I wouldn't want to list off everything she's done, so let's straight into the everything.
We're testing you right now.
At her son. But let's just start with the questions. I'll ask a few. While I do that, you guys can think of yours, and we'll start with you guys, and it'll be 2 or 3 questions.
Cool. What do you got for me? Bring it on.
Yesterday, you were pretty excited on it.
Yeah.
I just want to get an introduction. You were I hear you're a teacher, right?
Yes, I am. That is my. Oh wow, I'm so excited. I feel bad because when people come up to me when they find out that I teach, they're like, "That's so great that you're a teacher. I love teachers. Teachers are great." And really, I'm like, I have a job. Like for me, I'm like, it's great that I have a job. I wish I was acting 100% of the time. Yeah. So acting is my love, and teaching is my job. And I love my students. Let's put it that way. But it's not my favorite thing, but I can do it, so I do it. And I teach adults also. I think people figure when they hear teacher, they go, "Oh, Caitlin teaches little kids, and that's just so awesome." And I do teach little kids at church. I'm like a children's church pastor, but my day job is adults. So it's not as cute or as honorable or whatever. Like, she's making a difference in the lives of our youth. I'm like, no, not really. But yes, I teach English as a second language to adults from all over the place, and that's what I do when I'm not voicing.
That is making a difference.
Oh, yeah,
That is making a difference, yeah.
I'm trying anyway.
All right. In honor of being art director and how to be a female lead, how did you feel knowing that you're going to play the female lead and the director for this series?
It's really nerve-wracking. Being the lead in something that you're also the director of, because you feel like you're under a lot more scrutiny. Like, oh, she's the director, and she cast herself. Oh, who does she think she is? So it took a number of episodes for me to kind of relax a little bit and just trust that I could do it. I did not cast myself, by the way. You may have seen internet videos or something where I talked about this before, but in the process of casting the rest of the show and trying to decide who I wanted to hear as different characters during the audition process, and making a short list for Haruki, it was an extremely short list. Like, wow, I really don't know. There's just a handful of people that I think could possibly do it before the auditions. And you watch and you watch and you watch, and you're choosing the lines that you want people to use during the auditions. And it was during that time, preparing for the auditions, that I really started to love Haruki even more. And that's the purpose of the show. Like, if you don't come away from it loving her, then you watched it wrong. You know? So I thought, I wonder if I could do it. It was a very different voice for me at the time. I always play young, hyper people. When I told Mike McFarland, the producer, that I wanted to give it a shot, he was not opposed, but he said, well, you have to audition like everyone else, and let me hear the other ones too, and if you're not going to use who I would expect you to use, you gotta give me a reason why, blah, blah, blah. So the other folks would have been great. I also needed in other places in the show and couldn't find other actors to play those roles, so I think that I want to do it, and I had to record the entire first episode as Haruki before my producer would sign off on it and say, okay, you get to be her. So my audition was actually harder than anybody else's. But when he said yes, I'm like, holy crap, what did I just get myself into? Now I have to stick with it for another 25 episodes. But it was a very rewarding experience. grateful that mine had the faith in me to believe that I could do it. So, yeah.
You spoke about earlier in your answer that you were kind of nervous. What are some common fears that West Siders tend to go through?
We just want you guys to like it. That's really what it's about. And we kind of joke, because usually online there is what's called the vocal minority. It means the people with the most opposed opinions are the ones that, what is it, what's that stupid saying? It's been a long day, y'all. The squeaky wheel gets the grease or whatever. Lots of squeaky wheels out there. So you mostly, at conventions, you meet the people who like you, and on the internet you read about the people who don't like you. And so while everyone's entitled to their opinion and you have to learn how to just take the good with the bad, it still doesn't make it any easier. The initial sting of, oh, they hated it, For me, I think I just wanted people to love Oron in English as much as they already did in Japanese. It had such a huge fan following. That's what was most important to me. Yeah. And I hope that we accomplished that.
Okay. Now you guys, two questions.
Green shirt.
Who's your favorite, aside from Harvey?
Aside from Haruhi, so like a host club member or any character, or?
How's the host club members?
Oh, my favorite host is Kyoya. Now you don't have to think about it. Yes, especially without his shirt on. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's a weird noise. Listen to that. Excuse you. I'm trying to get this so that when I speak too loudly, it doesn't explode on you guys. Kyoya is my favorite. He wasn't always, though. I never disliked him, but I kind of went through phases. When I was just a fan watching it, I really liked Mori Senpai, and then I really liked Honey a lot, and but in the end, it's Kyoya. Kyoya wins. And a Full Metal costume.
What was your favorite horror line, or just any line from the show?
Oh, okay. It's the line where Tamaki wants to come to Haruki's house desperately. He wants to come over, and like the twins. It's the one where the twins fight. Tamaki's trying to get himself invited over to her house, and she's just very straight faced, and she's like, no way in hell, senpai. I don't know why. I just like that line. It's so silly. She says lots of great things, and it's hard for me to choose an absolute favorite, but that one always comes to mind because I think the moment is it's perfect. Right here in the blue hair, hopefully.
What Harvey line do you not like?
What Haruhi line do I not like? Any of the lines where she has to be cute. Where it's Haruhi, like in Tamaki's mind, and she's this lovely girl in a dress, right? It's so silly. Like, I'm in love. Like, well, that one's okay. That one's really funny, but that's pretty funny though. But the other ones, he's imagining her, and he's got her in her yellow dress, and they're spinning around. She's like, oh, all of that. It's so not her at all. But I really hated it. There's even an outtake of me disliking the line, one of them. The stuff in Karui's out, he's imagining her bringing like breakfast in bed as a room. She's like, oh, yeah, I'm like, I don't want to be cute. She's not cute. She is, because she doesn't want to be. That's what I like about her. I don't like being la 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 la. So it's not right. Right here.
Was there any lines that like you had a hard time doing, like either just voice-wise or like emotionally-wise? Like, were there any lines that were hard for you?
In any particular show?
Anyone?
Yeah, lots of lines are difficult for a variety of reasons. We'll come back to you, okay? Lines can be difficult because they are vocally stressful. Like, it's with a voice that's hard, so it's hard to do them or have to do them over and over because it literally hurts your voice or at least will ruin your voice for the rest of the session. I can't think of a particular show, but that's a common thing. I don't want to say lines I didn't like doing because I love my job. I love my job, and the hardest part of my day as a voice actor is, oh, I can't get this line right. You know, the hardest part of a surgeon's day is his patient dies. You know, it's a big difference. So for me, it's okay, even when the lines are difficult. Like, that's the challenging part of it. That's the work part. So even the hard stuff, I enjoy. You know, and the emotional stuff is obviously difficult because it's really draining. You know, you leave the session just totally, oh my gosh. But the payoff is, it's quite cathartic to do that. I mean, there are a lot of emotions we put away during the day when we feel them. And that's what's great about being an actor. So now it's time to pull that out and get rid of it so I don't have to carry it around anymore. And so, yeah, it's pretty, there are good things to the bad things to my job. Sorry. Okay, now we move.
If you were to continue Oron, would you have everyone still casted the same? Like, would you still be Haruhi, or would you?
Of course I would. Of course. Yes.
Still get Vic and.
Of course. Everybody who would still be available would still be in the show. Absolutely. And then some. I would love for there to be more Oron. I've read the manga. I love what all happens with the storyline. And who knows? You never know. Maybe they'll make some one of these days. Over here.
When did you first start voiceover? What was your first job?
My first job was in 2004, and it was on the very first episode of Case Closed, known as Detective Conan in Japan. And it was my very first thing. I mean, it's possible that my audition at Funimation, which was an impromptu audition that I did on a tour, they actually recorded that line, and so they may have used it. And it's a random line in some Yu Yu Hakusho episode. I don't even know what episode. Okay. But then my first real part was the first episode of Case Closed. And I played some girl, like a girlfriend of a guy, ex-girlfriend of, I don't remember. Yeah, it's something. Wait, what is it? I gotta figure it out. My boyfriend gets decapitated on a roller coaster. That's what it is. Yeah. What a first episode. I mean, and I don't mean for me. I mean, that's the first episode of the show. So right away you're like, oh, that's how this show's gonna go down. Okay. All right. Yeah. It's a lot of screaming on my first day of work. Sailor Saturn.
Going back to the emotional thing, how did you feel after the episode in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood where Winry was holding the gun in the alleyway when she was going to try and kill Scar? How did you feel after that episode? Since it was really emotional.
I felt exhausted. I felt, what's the word I'm looking for? I felt closure because I had known since 2005 that that's what happened in the manga. Some fans spoiled it for me because, you know, in the original, not the original, in the first Full Metal series, he's not the one who killed her parents.
Yeah.
And somebody at a convention told me who really was, and they showed me the manga pages. And I don't even think that those manga pages had come out in English. So they were showing me like scanlations that they got off the internet. And I'm like, holy cow, that's really different. So when Brotherhood came along, I knew that that moment was coming. And it was really hard, but good too. Like I said, the hard stuff is the good stuff. So it was nice when it's finally over. There, that's done. We did it. I'm going to jump over to this side of the room because I've been picking on y'all for a bit.
Watching the blue girl, there's another hand up first.
Oh yeah? I can't see.
No,
And
blue
with the
hat.
blue hat? All right, blue hat. What's up? Do one of your voices from any anime. Yes, I can. I don't know. What do you guys want to hear?
Winry.
Okay. Edward, did you break your automail again? What else did she say? What am I going to do with you? Drink your milk. You don't drink your milk, you're always going to be the size of a bean.
Who are you calling shortstop?
Is that good? Yeah, okay. Still over here. Tommy? Yeah. No. Honey? It's blonde. Blonde.
Okay. So you're pretty well known, obviously. Have you ever had problems where you were out in like, I don't know, out on the streets or something, and like somebody inappropriately, like, no, not like that. Inappropriate times, what I'm saying, ask for like a photograph or a signature or something, like when you're teaching or something.
No. My students know what I do, but English is not their first language, so if they even watch anime, it's subtitled into their language. And because I'm a voice actress, it's only since the internet and YouTube videos became huge that people even really know what I look like. It's mostly my voice that people know. So, but there have been a couple of instances where I run into someone who either recognizes me from a website or YouTube, or they recognize my voice. There's a Starbucks by the studio, and usually I don't drink Starbucks that often, but after a session I will, like kind of treat myself, go get something and go home with it. And so I order, when I pull up and I hand the person my card to pay with, she sees my name on it. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I knew it was you." What? And so then she tells me that she's an anime fan, she loves Full Metal and all these things, and she's great. What's her name? Rebecca? Hi, Rebecca. You're watching this or something on the internet. So there's that, and now I see her all the time, and it's great. It's really fun. She's like, "Oh, did you just get down to the studio?" I'm like, yeah, and we do small talk, and it's good times. Another time, I was getting a pedicure. Weird. And I was there with my aunt, and we were done sitting at the thing at the front where your toes are drying. And I was talking to her about work, I think, and cons and some stuff I had going on. And there was a girl waiting for her turn, and she was just kind of sitting there, like really antsy, like kind of rocking. Every time I'd make eye contact with her, like she'd smile, and then be like, weird. And I don't remember how, but she finally introduced herself, or I came up with something to say to her so she wouldn't feel weird. And yeah, I think I may have signed something for her at the nail salon. But yeah, so that's the only 2 times that's happened where people recognize me in real life. But it's weird. What a trip. But here with the ears.
What's your favorite line from Full Metal Alchemist?
Favorite line from Full Metal Alchemist. I really need to memorize it, but I don't have it memorized. Because we don't memorize our lines. We don't rehearse, we don't get scripts to go home with. So you guys who've seen the show many, many times, you probably know more of my lines than me. Okay? I said them once, maybe twice, 6 or 7 years ago. Especially the original stuff. But I think that my favorite lines of Winry's would have to be from the very last episode of Brotherhood, which for those of you who haven't seen it, I won't spoil it, but it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. So I'm sorry that I can't perform it for you, but I don't have it memorized. Sorry. Back there with the glasses.
Hi. So, are you and Vic like best friends?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say we're best friends, but we're very good friends, very close friends, ever since like 2005. So yeah, he's my bud. And then way back. Oh, okay.
Strike, which is, I just thought it would have been really funny if each was very diverse nationally, if they did accents for their respective nations, and you play a character who is from Finland. Can you do a Finnish accent?
I cannot do a Finnish accent. I can't really do Scandinavian accents at all. That's a really tough one I'd have to practice. But I think the reason that they opted not to, if you didn't hear what he said, I was in a show called Strike Witches. You guys know this show? Strike Witches. It's a really cute show. It's these girls who kind of have airplanes for legs, and they fly around and save the world. They don't wear pants. Okay. No pants, airplanes for legs. You with me? All right. But it's a cute show, and the thing is also they represent those countries, but it's not exactly that country. Like she's not from Finland, she's from somewhere else. But what's really cool for all you history buffs out there is that all the characters are female, and it's all World War II style stuff. So they're actually named after real heroes from their respective countries. So their first name obviously is not because they have a female name, but like Jamie Markey's character is named Charlotte Yeager after Chuck Yeager. And Isla Ilmatar Jutalainen, who's named after some guy Jutalainen from Finland. And it's really cool. I think there are just too many accents to manage. And the show, even though it has a lot of fan service and stuff, is still more serious than, say, Italian, which is really all about poking fun at everybody's nationalities. So there you want the accents. But I think in Strike Witches, it would have taken away from all of it. It would have been really weird Finnish and Italian and a number of Japanese characters, and it would just sound like we were being racist, I think. Good question, though. Snow White.
Did you prefer the original ending of Brotherhood or the ending in the first series of the show?
I think I like Brotherhood better. I think it's because obviously it ends better for my character. And at the end of the first series, you don't really know. They don't really cement. Just like, okay, well, Winry's here and here's Alan come back and it's just sort of there. And then the movie happens and things are worse for Winry. So like this blows ahead. So I was really happy when Brotherhood came along and you could see the story progress for longer. People ask me which series do I like more, and it's hard to say. I mean, if I had to pick, I guess I would say Brotherhood, if only for the fact that you get to, in only a few more episodes than the original series, experience these characters for longer. Like more time actually passes, even if you're not with them while it passes. You see Ed grow, literally. And by the end of the show, he's taller than Winry, and this is not something that happened. You get to see more arcs for more of the characters. And so that's why I like Brotherhood, I guess, more. But to me, Full Metal is just all this all-encompassing thing, especially because they happen so near one another. It might have been different if I did one and like 20 years later, they're like, come back and be Winry again. Right here.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was your favorite role that you've done throughout your career? And why?
It's definitely how to be in Moron because it's a role that I just love so much and a show that I love so much and something that I never expected I would get to do. All I could do was hope and pray that I would. So every moment of it is really special to me, and I still love to watch the show whenever I have a free minute and just kind of remember. So it's happy. Over here, the black hair.
So because the Eastern audience is a lot different from the Western audience, when you were presented with horror, did you have like any kind of doubt like how well received it would be?
I didn't have any doubt because I already knew the fan base was so large. If you didn't hear, he asked how was I concerned about how the Western audience would accept Horror High School Musical. And because there was such a huge fan base, I knew that it would be great. And when we acquire a title, it usually has a letter associated with it to show how well anticipated it is, or what if it's a big title, like Full Metal Alchemist is a AAA title, and shows like Soul Eater, AAA titles, like the big stuff, and Oron is another of those. So I'm like, okay, yeah, they're gonna love it. Yeah, there are things that I knew were going to be hard for people to understand, but I also knew that just by the look of the show, it's not the kind of thing that if you saw it on a shelf and you didn't watch anime, you were going to pick it up anyway. No, I mean, there are plenty of people, though, who tell me Oron was my first anime, but it's because their friend told me to watch it, not because they were in Best Buy one day and went, oh, look, interesting, boys in periwinkle coats, I'm taking that one. So it was definitely a challenge, though, because there's so many very Japanese elements. But I knew that that's a part of the reason that we like anime. Like, we like it because it's an escape. We also like it because it's this other culture that we can just be absorbed in for a while. And I didn't want to get rid of any of that. And I'm not responsible for writing the scripts, but I was able to tell the writers, like, don't try and change this, right? I don't care, keep that word, keep this whole concept, because the whole idea of a host club is a supremely Japanese thing. We don't have that here. So why try and pretend that, oh, these are American kids? You know, they're not. They're Japanese kids. I mean, Tomoki's a French-Japanese kid obsessed with Japanese culture. So just like all of you. So like, let's keep that. Let's keep all that in there. I think it should. Oh yeah, I heard about it, and I've been at my table the whole time. I haven't got to go see them. Is it good? Has anyone been to it? Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. Cool. Well, I'll try to see them tomorrow if I can. Right here.
Could you just like insult Ed a bunch and like call him like an ugly breed?
I mean, I suppose that I could. Just say alchemy break.
I don't know, like you have to grab to like
Didn't I do that a minute ago? Where were you?
Like
Insults. All she does is tell him to drink his milk, and she's like, you know, you can call once in a while, Edward. All you have to do is just say Edward, and all of a sudden that means she's mad. She's serious. It's business. And I start tricking.
My sister graduated last night, so could she get a quick shout out?
Sure, what's her name?
Leanne.
Leanne, yeah. Okay. Here's a Winry line that I remember. It's really easy. It goes like this. Congratulations, 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 Leanne, you graduated! Woo!
Thank you.
Good job, there you go. What else we got? Right here.
Have you ever had a really terrible prank played on you?
I'm sorry. I'm terrible. I know. You should know. I'm the worst for stories about booth bloopers or that. If I do them, I forget them. So I'll save you that. If someone was thinking to ask me, tell me about your worst booth experience, I don't remember. People don't really play pranks on me, and I certainly screw up enough, but I just forget about it and move on. Because I'm really driven. Like, let's get the job done. Yeah. Sorry. Over here.
Okay, I have two questions. One that my sister wants me to ask, which I really don't want to ask, but I'm gonna have to anyway.
Is it appropriate? Remember, this is a family-friendly panel.
It is, but sort of, I think. Sorry.
Plug your ears if you're under 13. What?
It was just something like you just said in Oron High School Host Club.
What's that?
It was a conversation you had with Vic in the first episode, and you guys were talking about him dressing you in a bunny suit. Has he gotten around?
Oh, no.
As weird as it was, okay, I got that question aside. It's not really.
No, I've never worn a bunny suit for anyone.
Yeah, it was really stupid. I didn't want to ask that question.
It's all good.
Anyways, I'm going to just remember to have me ask that question again. Okay, my real question is, which character would you say is personally to you, like personal to you, that you would resemble more, like relate to?
Oh.
Like,
Who can I personally relate to?
Yeah.
All of my characters. I can relate to all of them.
But I mean, like, if you were actually really meet that person, like that character.
Like, who would be my friend?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so weird because everyone's circumstances are so different. It's so extreme. So I'm trying to imagine meeting an auto mechanic. Where would I meet one? In the mall?
She has to get clothes, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Winry's shopping for clothes. I don't know. I think I'd be pretty good friends with Haruhi because she's a real like straight shooter. She doesn't take crap from people. She just kind of tells it like it is. Yakumo I really like from School Rumble. She's just so sweet and kind and like just mellow. I'm trying to imagine like characters that I've played that are like my friends that aren't really. I don't know. You stumped me. This question is too difficult.
But I don't think anyone's ever asked you that question before.
Yeah, that one's a hard one. Hold on. What else have we got? Henry.
Do you find yourself making different gestures with your hands and body language when you're acting different characters?
Not too too much, actually.
Not too much.
And that's just me,
Okay.
personally. I don't really move around very much. Other actors do, but to some degree you can't move around because the microphone can tell if you're on it or if you're off it. So if you're moving about when you're recording, that really doesn't work great, right? So even more than that, though, I mean, it's a really powerful microphone, but it's not meant to amplify, it's meant to record, so it's a little different situation. And it picks up everything. So even moving around like this, if you have clothes that make too much noise, it records it. So I've really gotten to, I don't move them. The most, I might move my hands a little bit, but I don't know. It's something to do with, I'm also real focused. We've got a lot going on. There's a microphone here, there's a script over here, and a video over here. And you have to look back and forth. So it's about a foot and a half in between jumping from your line to their mouth. And I don't have to watch their mouth, but it's easy, it's a good idea to. So the last thing I'm thinking about, like, I just put my hands behind my back, or I cross my arms, or put them in my pocket, something like that. So, no problem. Purple hair.
Who's your favorite homunculus from Full Metal Alchemist?
Favorite homunculus from Full Metal Alchemist? Fun question. I think from the first Full Metal, Wrath in the first Full Metal is my favorite. And I have to say that because it's not the same in the second one. It doesn't exist in the second one. It's really like Wrath. It's a very tragic character. Blue hair.
When you start voice acting for a new character, how do you get a good feel of what that character should sound like?
The director helps a lot. You have your idea as an actor when you go into audition. You come up with something based on a picture that they give you and a little info about them. And sometimes they'll even play you some of the Japanese to give you an idea. But the director just helps, and they'll tell you make it a little younger, or higher, lower, breathier, that sort of thing. And they'll find a place in the script where you have a decent amount of dialogue, so you can set the voice with that. Because sometimes you just have a sentence and a couple of grunts or some such. But go to a place where there are a lot of lines and do them all and come up with it, and they'll keep a bit of that on reference for you for the next time you go in and play it. So remember, this is what the voice is. And sometimes you may never really feel comfortable with it. There's some voices that I've done, the character is not a major character. They never say a ton of stuff. Or the show is just not very long. It's 13 episodes or something. You're there so sporadically. Or maybe they have all the scripts and you're going to record all 13 episodes in one session. So you feel like, I never really got to know this person, I don't really know if this voice is right, but the director never told me to do anything different. So if they like it, great. Not much, that's it. What else you got? Who hasn't asked one yet? Or what's the song in your head?
Okay. What got you started voice acting? Like, what made you think, hey, I want to start voice acting?
When I was younger, I just wanted to be, hi Sam! When I was younger, I just wanted to be a Disney princess really badly. Oh, so badly. And then I just used to mimic Disney characters all the time. And those movies I do have memorized. And then in college, anime was like my hobby. Just I'd watch it for fun with friends or on my own, whatever. And sometimes I would watch and mimic those people, because why not? I didn't have anything else to do, and I was just sort of curious, like, hey, I wonder if I could do that. And I would, like, that's not too hard. And then I found out that Funimation was in my city. I didn't know until I was watching the anime one night, and I watched the credits all the way to the end when it flashes the Funimation logo, and it says Fort Worth, Texas. I'm like, I live in Fort Worth, Texas. Now I don't. Now I live in Dallas. But at the time, I was in like Fort Worth County. Like, that's crazy. They're near us. And not too long after that, my friend says I worked there, and then I got a tour, and then I got a job, and it just kind of, it all happened very quickly. I was not going through college going, I am going to be a voice actor. I just knew I was going to be an actor. So I was already studying and preparing learn to act for a living. And voice acting is just a little channel of that. Right here.
The creator of Woman Office made a lot of really strong female characters. So what's your opinion on all of the strong female characters, especially women?
I really appreciate them, and I think that they're so strong and truly strong because the writer is a woman. And like there are a lot of strong women in anime, but then they still will always go back to, oh, but I sure hope he loves me at the end of it all, you know, or the reason I'm kicking butt and taking names is so he'll love me. And like, really? Okay, because not that it isn't wonderful to be loved by a man. It is, or loved by whomever. It is. But really? You know, it's just kind of irritating. They're so tough, but in Full Metal, like, Winry, yes, she loves Ed, she wants to be acknowledged for that, but more importantly, they are family, and she is very firm in the things that she wants to do with her life. That's another reason I really like Brotherhood, is because it explores Winry wanting to become a better automobile mechanic and engineer. She goes off, she's like, I'm going to move to this other town, I'm going to study in the best place that I can, and that's really cool. It isn't about her pining away and waiting for the day when Edward comes home. You know, while she still has those feelings, she doesn't let them prevent her from moving forward with her life, and that's really great. And think of all the other wonderful female characters, like Hawkeye is really cool. And you know, she's got whatever going on with Mustang too. But again, she's not sitting around, sitting by the telephone, going, oh gee, I wonder if the colonel's gonna call me tonight. You know, there's none of that. She's got too much work to do. She doesn't play around. And you also have Olivier, all these girls, great. And Izumi, and yeah, they're great. And I think that's one of the reasons that so many people like Full Metal and so many women like Full Metal is it's like finally a character I can relate to like 100%. Right here.
If you could be any character for a day, who would you be?
Like any character?
Well, I'd let you voice.
Oh, I think I'd like to be Miria from Baccano for a day. Yeah, because she's immortal, right? So, and she's so like stupid. How great to just not know anything. Like she never really seems worried, and she gets sad for a second, and then she's happy again. So that's cool. I want to be her. She's just very carefree. She runs around with Isaac, who's like the best partner in crime you can imagine, and have fun. Definitely Miria. Someone who hasn't asked one yet. I don't want to double up yet. Yes.
If you could voice any animated character, not just in anime, who would you do?
Any animated character? Well, that's interesting, because it obviously would have to be a character that already exists somewhere, like in literature or something, or in manga or something. Oh, I don't know. I'll just go with my standard answer, which is Sailor Moon. I mean, she's already been voiced by someone before, but she's my favorite. That could be anybody. It would be her. Yeah. What else we got? In the back,
Who's your favorite host member and why?
My favorite host member and why is Kyoya. Kyoya because he's hot. And intelligent. I just like his sort of, you know, I'll rule things from the shadows mentality. Yeah, he's great. He's in control of the situation, whether you realize it or not, and that's very attractive. Gentlemen, take notes. Right here.
I want to know, what was your favorite scene while working on One Piece with Vivi?
Oh, wow, cool. Favorite scene working on One Piece as Vivi. What's interesting about Vivi is that I played her condensed story before I got to go through and act out the entire arc of her story. So I think then that my favorite stuff would have to be when she is Miss Wednesday, because that doesn't happen much in the movie. I knew about it, and the movie focuses a little less on it. It's more, they know she's the princess, blah, blah. But, so it was very fun to get to go and be Miss Wednesday, because that's a silly voice that I don't really get to do very often. It's so ridiculous. Oh, that's my favorite stuff. Yes, ma'am.
How did you get the part Titanic
of 2010. And around that time is when Funimation was preparing to do Black Butler. And I knew there were all these British accents, and it all looked so cool, and I'd been seeing the cosplay for a while, but I was moving away. So I couldn't audition. I mean, I couldn't be a part of it, and I was really sad. And the director was really sad. She's like, oh, Caitlin, we need your accent in the show. I'm like, sorry. While I was gone in Spain, I came back to the States to visit a number of times for conventions, and every time I would stop back by in Texas and do a bit of recording. Always for roles that I already had. You know, it's finishing up Winry, or Maya Iuki in Evangelion, or there was another one that just kind of popped up. And I went, oh, this is you, good thing you're here. I'm like, okay. And at the time, they were gearing up to do season 2. And so I'd seen the audition sides, and I knew that it was shorter than the original series. And at the time, I was going to be home, back in Texas for a whole month. Usually I would come for a week or 10 days, but this time I had 2 conventions, back-to-back weekends, and lots of recording. So and we already knew that in the summer we were moving back to the States. So I kind of asked, not the director, but other people who would know, like the engineers and things, how many episodes were ready to record, what was the schedule going to be like, and they said, we've got half of the series now, and that all of it needs to be wrapped, the whole show by whatever date they said. So then is when I approached, I think, the producer and said, look, I'm here, and I'd really love to be in the show, and everybody else got to be in the first one, can I audition? I wasn't saying, please cast me, it was just, can I audition, because I'm here for the next few weeks, and I can record it all, and then we're coming back in the summer, and I could record the second half. And they're like, yeah, we'd love to have you audition. So I auditioned, and I read for Eloise, and that's who I really wanted. That's the role that I was like, oh my gosh, what a cool part. And Hannah, and I think that may have been it. And then in the end, they said, we'd like you to play Hannah. I'm like, cool, great, let's do it. And that's how it happened. I recorded half of it, and then I moved back the other half. And a couple months later, I did that song that she sings, and it was a good experience. Thank you. Thank you. I love it too. Do you guys know what we're talking about? There's a big song at the end of Black Butler too. It's a very famous Welsh lullaby. And Hannah, even though she has a British accent, is meant to be a Welsh character. Why? I don't know. I don't think the Japanese, they just like the idea of characters being from Wales. Like, do you know where it is, that accent?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just went with standard, just whatever, BBC English. And even in the Japanese, though, they sing it in Welsh. And the director was like, here it is, the Japanese one, and here are the lyrics. These lyrics are in English. He goes, well, we figured it should be in English. He goes, you want to sing in Welsh? I'm like, they sang it in Welsh. They didn't sing it in Japanese. And he said, it's honestly going to be just as easy for me to learn it in that language as it would be in English. I mean, obviously English I already speak, and Welsh I don't. So, but when you're singing, it's different. It's not like I'm trying to learn how to speak the language. I just need to sing the language. So I worked on it really hard and had a good time, and it was really cool. I loved it. Thank you. What else we got? Right here in the middle.
If they were to make a season 3 of Full Metal Alchemist, do you think it would be more about Ed, Al, or Winry and Ed's kids?
Oh, I see. If there were a season 3 of Full Metal, would you think it would be more Ed and Al based, or about Ed and Winry's children? So like the next generation?
I don't know.
I think to even call it Full Metal Alchemist, it would still have to be Ed and Al based. If it were about Ed and Winry's kids, where's the Full Metal aspect? You know, 'cause Ed is Full Metal. But it would be interesting to see the progression from the end of the show through some of the things that you see the photographs of in the final credits. You know, there's an older version of May is there with Al. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Let's see what happens with that. And just to follow up on all the other characters. But I don't know that you could make a whole show of it. It would just be a fun kind of like mini series, like fan just for the fans. Here's what you all wanted to see, right?
An OVA maybe?
Yeah, some more OVAs, exactly.
More.
Why not? Why not? Yeah, let's what else? Right here. If I could make my own anime character, what would they look like? Wow. Huh. That's an interesting question.
Draw it.
Draw it? No, I can't draw.
She's so good. Would she look like you?
No, I can't draw. Oh, okay, let's talk about it. Like, what hair color would they have? That kind of thing? What would they mostly look like? Okay, a character that I would be playing. You just blow my mind, man. I'm so tired. I don't know. Let's see, they'd have big eyes and ridiculous hairstyle and color, far too small waist, far too large chest. If I just had to take a stab in the dark, what would they look And before we go up, anybody who hasn't asked any yet that wanted to, or in character?
I actually
Sorry,
have
you'll be
like
next.
2 questions.
Okay.
What was your thoughts when Al got his body back and he was able to move around outside the suit of armor, but had lost his memories while he was in that suit of armor?
That's really sad. That was my thought, like, oh my gosh, does it know about any of that? Wow. Maybe in a way that's like a blessing, because what a difficult time, and Al is such a sensitive character that would be really hard for him. So maybe now, not knowing about it, he can just move on. But still, it's like, oh, that stinks because everybody else knows. It's an interesting twist, I think. What was your other one?
And would you be able to say something for us in Hannah's voice?
Of course, what would you like me to say?
I don't know.
You don't know. I'm afraid I haven't memorized any of her lines, you see. She doesn't say much, and then there's that one episode where she speaks and speaks and speaks forever. It's brief, we're going to shut up. All I know is I hated having to say the word body, because I just don't like that word. I don't know, it's a weird word to me, and then with the accent, having to say things like, Alois Trancy's body. Every time I say the word body, I picture Tim Curry in the movie Clue. Mr. Body. Why do I sound like Tim Curry? So weird. I hate to say the word body, but I don't know. I could speak in the accent all day, but I can't remember any of her lines. Sorry.
Say, yes, Your Highness.
Yes, Your Highness. Maybe now she's in this. Alright, you have it over here. You jump to the ball? Oh, you put it back good. I ever wanted to snap crab. Oh, I'm being there, so we're going to go to the beach. No, I'm not terribly fond of it. To be honest. Crab. I don't. I mean, I would like to like it. It's a nice idea. I'm not opposed. It's just not my favorite thing. But I will tell you that watching that episode made me go, man, I want to eat that. I know that I wouldn't like it, but she makes it look so delicious. The way she's just like, oh, she eats the whole thing. Oh, that's a really funny episode. And then she's got a bar. Good times. Yeah, she ends up in Kimmy's room. That's right. I think she planned it. Secretly, that's what she wants to have happen.
Right here. How was when the
first Brotherhood and the original Full Metal Alchemist, when it came out and you were doing cons all together, how was the experiences of getting to be with Vic and Travis and everybody?
It was incredible. I was really on cloud nine through that whole thing because I thought Full Metal was like my second really big part, but my first big role, like I did it, and it hadn't even come out yet by the time Full Metal was around. So the first really recognition I was getting was for Full Metal Alchemist. And there's just really nothing, I wouldn't trade anything for that time in my life. It was so wonderful. It was so much fun. It was really great to be going to conventions while the show is still on the air. And there were people who hadn't seen it in Japanese, who just couldn't wait for the weekend, or people who had seen it and still couldn't wait for the weekend. And we'd be like, don't tell me, I want to know yet, because I only know the stuff that my character's in.
Yeah.
So to find out what's going to happen to everybody else was, God, what a trip. It was really fun. It was really, really great time. Great time of my life. Just tell that. Excuse me. Goodness, right here.
Why is there a second season of Oron?
Why isn't there a second season of Oron? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to know. I'm not sure. Sometimes they only have enough budget to produce so much of a show. And I don't know how it timed up, like what was going on in the manga, when the show was on the air. Maybe they didn't make more because there wasn't more to make.
The manga wasn't done.
And now I think that the way that the show ended, if they made more, I don't know if they would go with the manga or if they would make a whole new story.